Alright, let's see if I could stomach doing a talking video and keeping this organized. How to find... Sorry if you can hear shit in the background, I live in an apartment. Bands. Awesome, alright. So, I'm sure you guys have been seeing a lot of people uploading really cool, like, suffix core music. And I know when I see people find stuff, I'm like, how the hell did he even find that? And you'll see people uploading, like, hundreds and hundreds of bands, like, shit that nobody's even heard of. You can't even find them on SoulSeek. And it's one of those things where there's, like, this weird niche community around it, but I don't know, when I first saw people doing that, I thought it was awesome, but I just wasn't really sure how to go about finding certain things. Um, so I'm going to show you at least how I do it. I'm sure somebody who's a lot better at it will probably come along and give tips of their own, but place number one, Last FM. If you don't have a Last FM, what are you even doing? I mean, don't really use mine because I mostly listen to shit on my MP3 player, but if you want to find interesting bands, this is like kind of the place to be. My advice would be to start on the page of somebody who's like not super unknown, but unknown enough to where you might be linked to like interesting local bands. So, February Heartbreak, I think I actually mentioned them in a previous video, but good band, listen to their shit. Also known as Enter the Collector. So you want to start on like somebody mildly obscure like this. Don't go to like I don't know, like fucking Hope's Fall. Something a little too known isn't gonna get you to where you need to be. Have them be on like the middle tier in terms of obscurity, and then you're gonna want to go to similar to and oh look at that, just like a fucking a plethora there. And from there on out, you could just be taking down this endless list of really underrated nobodies, really underrated but really amazing, awesome sounding nobodies. And then if you go far enough for like hours and hours, if you're like really fucking autistic about this like I am, then you're gonna start getting to the pages where there's like barely any information, not even like no pictures or anything like that. That's where you want to be in terms of finding new stuff. I would also pay attention to the comment section and listeners because then you could just you could just go to people's pages and see what they're listening to. If you can sniff out those who have good taste, that's what I do. I'm shameless about it. Um, and yeah, I really like Last FM. I wish I could get it to work with my desktop, but I could only get it to work with like classic Windows Media Player, which makes my computer heat up. Anyways, place number two to find decent bands, Discogs, and there's going to be two parts to this section. Number one, honestly, just go to their just go to their search bar and search by genre. And if you want to, you know, keep this within reason, like a decade or something, 1990s, 2000s, if you really want to find some shit, just do this and then go all the way to the end. I think I've gotten to 400 before, and that's how I end up finding a lot of the stuff that I post to this channel. Yeah, just start here and then click on anything that's interesting. Judge books by their cover. Yeah, that's the way to go. So that's part one of Discogs. Part two, another way of finding good bands. Second part of the Discogs point, record labels are a very good place to look if you want to find new bands. So with these guys, I think somebody else put this release on my radar. I actually own quite a few of these here. Yeah, I found Heroes by the Unfolding through a list somewhere on here. I don't even remember who it belonged to, but through them I found Jeremiah's Grotto. Don't own this one, but I wish I did. Neutral Agreement, they're good too. fair old fashioned. I own this one. And yeah, this is especially good if like you're looking for bands of a particular sound. I mean, the core sphere, core suffix is already known for its like infinite amount of micro labels, but it's never enough. Um, Sounds vary a lot by geography, so if you're looking for something very, very, very specific and you've heard it across multiple bands, but you're not quite sure how to define it, um, look at the record labels. Chances are they might be label mates or something like that. Another great, great, great way of finding bands is all of these different music archives, be it archive channels, archive blogs, just anything floating around on the internet. These guys are my go-to. Just like their dedication is insane. They have a wish list. They do take submissions, so if you end up finding anything, don't just end up posting it yourself. Then, give it to them. But there are so many fucking channels which do this, either uploading stuff that they find, uploading stuff from their own collection, so on and so forth. I'll give like a big montage or list or something or other of all the ones that I stand by. Not on YouTube. I'll give a lot of channels, but on archive.org, the MySpace archive project, also very good and extensive, and you can sort by genre and year, so that's pretty good. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. Probably the easiest way to find new music. Alright, so as you go through the aforementioned methods, getting all of your bands that you're interested in, you're going to notice a phenomenon that is both tantalizing and infuriating. Exhibit A. I got this from theseruins.com, one of two websites for a band called A Burning Water. And circa 2003, I think, on the discography section of their website, they mention a EP called, I think you would pronounce this as Soleil Seine, meaning under the breast. And yeah, this thing is nowhere to be found. Only 300 of these were ever printed. One of the tracks, Turquoise Tears, made it on to their full length, at least the Japanese version of it. But yeah, this thing is basically fucking lost and has little to no hope of ever being found. And the only way that anybody would know of its existence is, by this fucking Wayback Machine archive capture. Exhibit A. Exhibit B. Did I get the correct page for this? Exhibit B. These are one of those bands slash albums which I found through just sorting by the emo style, sorting by decade 2000s, going all the way to fucking page 400. That's how I found these guys, I'm pretty sure. And as you can see, you have an artist, you have an album name, you even have a release here. Lucky you. And some pretty high quality photos of the album art. But where is the album itself? Fucking nowhere, that's where. Pretty doesn't cut it. There's like a 12 to 15-year-old upload of this one track online. There's even like a promotional interview with the band, but the actual album itself gone nowhere. Not on any streaming platforms, not re-uploaded, not even on SoulSeek. And you'll start running into this a lot, and it will make you want to tear your hair out. So now we proceed to the second part of this video. Finding lost music or finding information about lost music. How do we go about this? Okay, so step one, make sure it is actually lost. This seems really obvious, but because I'm sloppy, I always make the mistake of going on a wild goose chase for something just to realize that it is on YouTube with like 30 to 80 views. So, yeah, try your hardest to look first in all the correct places, major streaming platforms, YouTube, SoulSeek, etc. Be mindful that the search bar on YouTube is like nigh unusable. You'll have to really fight it to get certain things, but you know, it might be there. And then once you've exhausted that option, then you will want to try finding the band's website. How do you do this? Well, the first and easiest option, go to Discogs, go to one of their albums. Hopefully somebody's uploaded the CD booklet art, and it'll usually be in there. And then you could plug that into Wayback Machine, pray that there is an actual readable capture, or two, or three, or so on. And then you could get information from there. And in a lot of cases, bands will shout each other out. They'll like have a dedicated section on their website to linking to other bands or websites they frequent. So that's another good way of getting into different artists. But yeah, but let's say you're not that lucky and there isn't a CD booklet art for you to go off of. That's fine. There are a few other things you could do. Number one, MySpace. This is only going to work if the band was active during a certain amount of years, but in a lot of cases, you can plug their name into, you know, the MySpace template, Wayback Machine, and then assuming that their page is well preserved, they'll probably link to their website on there, and then that could take you to any possible captures of it. Alternatively, um, if the band has some amount of press, you could like search before, I don't know, like a certain year. Then you could look at different reviews that they've had, something like that. And in a lot of those cases, those old music reviews will link to their website. Also check places like, I don't know, like Last FM or anything similar. Next tip for finding lost music or finding information on lost music, search by images. Um, this was particularly helpful when I was looking for this album. I found this. I'm pretty proud of that. I love these guys a lot, Blame Twilight, but yeah, this one was particularly helpful in that department. The search results for this album are different from when I was looking for it, so it's kind of hard to demonstrate what I mean by this, but to be blunt, the state of modern search engines is less than ideal. And so when you just look something up, especially if, you know, it's like some decades old album or EP from a band that was never culturally relevant, not a lot is going to come up. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing out there. It just means that the search engine isn't capable of uh, pulling much on the subject that you're looking for. However, what'll happen sometimes is that while there's barely fucking anything in the first like three or so relevant pages of your search query, you'll go to the images and then suddenly things start looking a lot more different. So this is a good way of finding album art if you're looking for that. It probably won't be very high quality, but it will be a lead because a lot of the time, that album art, there's going to be a web page attached to that, right? When I was looking for Dress Up 101, um, there was a lot more here, as I said, and it linked to places like old sale listings for the album, you know, track lists, different forum posts talking about them. Yeah, that stuff will be very helpful in terms of finding information and how you might be able to just find an album that way straight up if uh, you can find an image that links directly to like a file sharing website or something like that. On to my next tip. Sorry if you can hear my computer fan. MP3 or just general music file sharing websites. These will probably be the most useful if I'm being honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. The other things I'm suggesting can definitely get you information or point you in the right direction. However, it doesn't matter how much information you have on a band if you don't have a place that's actually storing their music. Case in point, with Dress Up 101, I did everything in my power to dig up information about Blame Twilight. It was very insightful and interesting, but didn't do a damn thing to help me find the album. What ended up happening was that by putting in the precise, like, correct arrangement of words, I finally managed to get Google to be a working search engine and get me this, like, obscure Russian file sharing website that just so happened to have the complete album. I would put that up on screen, but I don't have it anymore, and I don't even think it's up anymore. You'll really want to capitalize upon stuff like that before it goes the way of like mp3.com. But yeah, file and music sharing websites, these are your best friends. A lot of stuff gets re-uploaded on Bandcamp, even like really old and obscure stuff. Reverb Nation, SoundClick, another one that is really, really underrated. I don't know if people are gatekeeping this or what, but I ended up finding out about this website through like a one-off comment on Last FM that was linking to it. Musify.club. You will find a lot of interesting stuff on here. Just take the time right now, pause this video right now, and just look, especially through the like the emo core tag. That'll be really useful. Another interesting way of less so finding lost music unless you're getting really creative and more so just digging up information about it, live journal. So with Dress Up 101, again, because when I'm looking for a lot of music, it tends to be straightforward after a certain point. This is like the one time where I've really, really, really had to dig for an extended period. But yeah, with Dress Up 101, after fighting with the current state of LiveJournal's website for a bit, I found a lot of old band photos. I found a lot of old fans, talking about their interactions with the band members, stuff like that, talking about old merch, old ticket prices, what have you. But something that very nearly got me close to the album Dress Up 101. So I found this favorite albums of 2004 post by so and so. And on here somewhere, blame Twilight. I don't know quite where it is. This might not even be the correct post, but it was on one like this. A poster had mentioned both listening to and rating Dress Up 101 and had mentioned it being in their collection. And through my wizardry, what I ended up doing was um, I ended up following this person's like online breadcrumb paper trail, and it turned out that they were still online. They were actually making music of their own, and so what I did was that I reached out and I was like, "Hey, um, sorry to have found you this way. This is probably very strange and creepy, but do you own this obscure album from like 30 years ago? And if so, can you please rip it? Please, 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 please." And he actually said that he'd do it if he could find it. I don't think that ended up coming to fruition, but I found the album a different way. That's just one example of um, how stumbling into information can bring you closer to an album. My second to last tip, and arguably the most important, knowing how to brute force a search engine. I'm not a scientist about this. I don't really have like a strat, but you're just going to want to put in like every combination of words you possibly can regarding like the artist's name, the album you're looking for, band members, just all of them in every possible order. And then look at anything that comes up, absolutely everything. I don't know what's in my recent searches. So I'm not gonna click the search bar, but yeah, this is the golden tip. This is the most important. You're relying upon the internet in order to get this information, so you're just gonna have to milk it of everything it's worth. And Obviously, don't just use Google, use fucking anything. Use DuckDuckGo, Bing. There's like alternative search engines. You could look into those. I mean, they're not super useful if I'm being honest, but they're fun to try. And yeah, this is my last tip for finding lost music or finding information on lost music or just finding information on music in general. The band members. I want to be very careful about how I go about this section because the thing about teaching people how to find information online about bands are created by people, and so I'm essentially teaching people how to find information on people. I'm making you really good at stalking, and um, I that's kind of an ethical nightmare. So I'm gonna keep this short and restrained, either on CD booklets or on Discogs or on Last.fm or anywhere else that Google can take you. There is a good chance that you will find the names of people behind whatever you're looking for, and we live in a fucking like digital panopticon, so you'll be able to find them probably through social media, Instagram, Facebook, something else. Maybe if you're lucky, they're still in some kind of like music scene and they have a link tree. You can reach out to them on there. Please don't harass anybody. Please, please, please don't harass anybody. What I will say though, speaking from experience, I don't know, maybe it'll surprise people that this wasn't tip number one, but it's honestly the least useful. Maybe I just have no charisma whatsoever, but most of the time when I reach out to people this way, they either don't respond or they just won't have whatever I'm looking for, or the less common option. They'll be like, "Oh my God, it's so cool that you still give a shit about this thing that I made so and so years ago. I'll totally pull it up, put it up online," and then they never do. So, do this with caution. Don't be insane. But honestly, yeah, this isn't as viable as you would think it is, anyways. So, those have been my tips for finding new bands that are on the lesser known side, how to recover any potential lost or difficult to find media involving those bands. When you do find stuff, don't be a lame fucking gatekeeper, post it somewhere, share it with people, make it more accessible so that it can be enjoyed. The reason I wanted to make this video, number one, this is just like a really fun hobby to get into. It's very satisfying to recover things this way or to learn about bands. I would compare it to coloring inside the lines of a coloring book. It is that sort of like psychological appeal. And furthermore, I see so many fucking people just being pretentious jackasses like wham wham wham, why do people only listen to MCR or whatever other band, wham wham wham. It's like, listen, when it comes to core bands, like, do you know how difficult it is to actually learn about this stuff, to actually get your foot in the door compared to other subcultures? I'm speaking relatively here. Obviously, it isn't impossible. I mean, I've done it. I'm only 20 years old, so I was hardly even sentient when most of the bands that I've posted were active. However, compared to other subcultures, there are significantly fewer comprehensives. Communities are more scattered and private. Obviously, things like the MySpace data loss, it makes it very difficult to look back on certain things. The Wayback Machine is there, but you have to know the names of bands to plug into the Wayback Machine in order for that to be a useful way of looking back on the old, so to speak. So I wanted to make a video that could inspire people to get a little more involved in this department, to be more exploratory with what they're listening to, cultivate a more, I don't know, like a personal taste. It's fun. It's fun to find these bands and take them under your wing in a certain way. There are certain bands where like you'll look up their name like 8th of September. With 8th of September, I swear to God, everything you'll find on them probably written by me, an overexcited teenager in high school. It's a little embarrassing. It only makes me want to kill myself a little, but yeah, but it's just, I don't know, it's fun. Not everybody can go to shows. I mean, I know that much. I'm like a recovering diagnosed agoraphobic, so if you want to get more involved in subculture, if you want to learn more about it, if you just want to, do something, then this is what you can do. And other people will thank you for uploading cool shit and giving them more stuff to listen to and research. Perhaps my tips won't be super useful for actually finding media because it feels like it's really just luck most of the time. However, if you take all of my steps, at least you'll be able to learn a lot about a band. At least you'll be able to find things like, old fans, their testimonies, for lack of a better word, cool assets from their websites, stuff like that. And I don't know, it's something to do. It's something to do with your spare time. So I hope this was useful. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And I'll go back to being a faceless entity that posts core bands now. Bye.